Today I'm going to show you how to modify a stock 99 to 2004 Ford Mustang taillight to work with your 99 to 2001 Cobra. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. If you're not familiar, the 1999 to 2001 Ford Mustang Cobras had a special taillight. There was an amber turn signal lens on that, like you can see here, and that was different than the V6 and GT cars of those years that had what you see on the right. In 2002, all Mustangs had what you see on the right, including the Cobras. So naturally, being a 2-year only option, since there wasn't a 2000 Cobra, the taillight on the left there has become a pretty rare taillight. They're pretty desirable among collectors, and they bring a lot of money on the used market. And while you can find them used, they're not really common. You might find a couple of sets on eBay or a local swap meet, Facebook Marketplace, something like that. But if you do, you're really going to pay for them. So if you happen to get into an accident and you damage one of these taillights, it's going to make your repair bill a lot more expensive. So what I've decided to do with my 99 Cobra is to go ahead and remove those taillights and replace those with a stock replacement taillight from all of the other models of Mustangs. And by doing that, I'm going to go ahead and avoid the situation where one could get damaged and I have to pay an expensive bill to repair it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to display those lights on the car for everybody to see that I have the rare taillights. To be honest with you, I like the amber turn signal lens. I'm not in love with it or anything like that. I do see why they're more valuable just because they're less common. But it really doesn't matter to me a whole lot if the car has them on them because I do drive it pretty often. And I figure, with what we're going to do today, you actually could easily swap these back and forth. So if I wanted to go to a show or something like that, I can put the amber turn signals back in if I wanted to. Alright, so since we're making this video, obviously it's not a plug and play scenario where you can just swap one for the other. The lights with the amber turn signal have one more bulb than all of the other models did. So you have to have a place to put that bulb. On the taillight on the right here, that area right here is where the turn signal would have been. And on these cars, the lights up here actually are what blink when you turn your turn signals on, different than what the 99 and 2001 Cobras did. So without any wiring changes, we need to figure out a way to make that work. So I'll turn these around here and you can see what we're going to do. This is the turn signal bulb that I was talking about for the amber turn signal. Now on the later lights, that section of the light housing is actually still there. It just doesn't have the cutout for the light bulb to go into, for that plug to hook into. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to go ahead and cut that out to accommodate that plug. And what that'll allow us to do is go ahead and plug that light into that part of the taillight that normally wouldn't be able to accept that. And then it'll give us a turn signal down here. And all the functionality that the 99 and 2001 cars had will remain the same. It just won't be an amber colored turn signal. And just a little disclaimer, what we're doing here today is not necessarily street legal. You can check your local laws and regulations to see what you're allowed to do. But we are modifying a DOT approved taillight to be something different than what was approved for. So there's a good chance that this isn't street legal. So use this at your own risk. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and set that new taillight aside. We're not going to need it quite yet. And we want to take our Cobra taillight, and what we're going to do is we're going to remove this plug and bulb here, and we're going to create something that traces out that socket pattern that we're going to have to cut out on the other taillight. So let's go ahead and remove that. You can see the pattern that I'm talking about here that accepts that light. It allows you to put the socket in and turn it, and it locks it into place. As I showed you earlier, the other light doesn't have that, so we're going to have to cut that exact shape out. Alright, so what we want to do next is get some masking tape. I recommend the wider stuff like I'm going to use here. It'll just be able to fit over this in one piece. You don't have to use multiple pieces to cover this hole. And we're going to put that over top of the hole. We're going to cover the entire socket area with this, and we want to fit that into the edges of the area around this hole as well. And then what you want to do is take either a pocket knife or a razor knife and cut out around the outer area the excess tape that we don't really need. And then go ahead and remove that. Alright. As you can see, I have the hole taped over, and you can sort of make out that pattern there. And so what we want to do now is we're going to take a pen or a pencil, marker, whatever you have, and we're going to trace that shape out so that we have a sort of a pattern of that to transpose onto the other tail light. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to be a little bit of trial and error to get the shape right once we cut it in the other light. Okay, just like that. And then something else I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the very top, like the 12 o'clock position, with a line. So we try to get the orientation exactly the same on the other light. And then I'm also going to mark the border of the circle a little bit in a couple places around that to make sure that we can center this in the other light as well. So we just want it to be oriented and located as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as close as possible to the original light. Alright, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and remove that, set our Cobra tail light aside, and get our new tail light. Now before we stick this on this light, there's a little tab, at least on this is a TYC brand light that I'm using here. At least on this brand, there's this little tab here that we're going to have to cut off that'll let us put that tape flat on the surface. I recommend wearing some here, some eye protection whenever you do this, because it will fly out when you cut it off with a pair of cutters. Just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and stick that tape on there. And like I said, orient it to that mark, have that line that you put there at about the 12 o'clock position, and then try to get the outer line of that circle lined up as best as possible. Like so. Alright, so now that we've done that, we're ready to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to use a Dremel multi-tool type tool with a cutting bit. You can use other methods, but I think this is probably about the easiest way to do this. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plunge this down into the plastic in the middle, or closer to the where the line is, and then gradually, carefully cut my way around and staying on the inside of my pen or pencil marks that you put on the tape. And then once we do that, we'll pull the tape off, and then from that point on, it'll sort of be like a test fit. We'll try to fit the plug in. If it's not quite enough clearance, we'll take a little bit more material out. We definitely don't want to take too much out in the beginning. Obviously, we can't put that back, so we just want to do this carefully. So I'm going to pull that tape off. I'm just going to take a minute to clean up some of the And then some of this material melted, on the edges here. Let's go ahead and pull that off. What we want to do now is go ahead and get the wiring harness from the Cobra and put it in this new tail light, and then we'll test fit that new plug. Already we can see that we definitely need to take some more material off. Alright, so that fits nice and snug. So what we want to do now, we want to pull that back out, and you want to get a vacuum or something like that and try to get all of the little plastic particles that might have made their way into the light housing. Get those out, because if you don't, they're going to end up making their way into other parts of the light. I don't recommend using compressed air, because it's just going to help that blow those particles all around into the light housing. So just try to get everything out of there with a shop vac as best as you can. All right, so we're all set. All we really need to do now is put it back in the car. We'll see how it looks.